What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to What's Your Story? I'm excited to have my guest on today. We've met, I think, about 4 or 5 years ago down at Lifetime Fitness. I connected with her pretty well. We didn't talk a lot, but when we did, it was really awesome. I know she did her bachelor's in, I think, psych and neuro down at Boston College. We connected at strength conditioning, the fitness side, just a lot of different things. And I really love the input she had on a lot of what her training, the way she worked with her clients. And I've loved to see her grow in the things that she's achieved over the last 5 years. So at this point, I want to welcome Alejandra onto the show.
Hi, Jeff. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So when we met, obviously it was like very fitness based. So I thought it would be best to just kind of jump back a little bit to where you get started. Like, how did you get into working out in the first place, and kind of what evolved and how did that work out?
Yeah. So I actually got into working out when I was about 14. So my dad told me I was fat and got me a personal trainer. So he's very Hispanic. It's very normal for them to say things like that, but it definitely changed a lot of things for me. So he got me a trainer. I trained with him twice a week, and that's kind of how I got started. I was also a competitive cheerleader at the time. But I didn't really have, like, I was never the type of person to play sports with balls. Like, they always scared me. So it was kind of really an outlet for me, especially when I turned 18 and I could no longer cheer, just because you either, like, there's no such thing as, like, professional cheerleading, right? So it was kind of like the thing that I kept doing. And as I started to grow with a personal trainer, I learned a lot of what I liked from trainers, a lot of what I didn't like from trainers. And when I turned 18, I got my certification, and I started training kind of like on the side, like learning as much as I could. Went to college, I studied neuroscience, and I was really interested in why people do what they do, their behaviors, kind of like everything that makes them tick. And that was really big for me. I actually did a lot of research with like the neuroscience behind eating and eating disorders, sleep lab work, and learning and memory. So it just kind of started to develop from there.
So did you feel like right away when you were cheerleading, did you like enjoy the training side to it, and that's, or the competitive side to it, and that's kind of what helped you transition into like the weightlifting side? You just were always competitive?
Yeah, I'm actually not a competitive person.
Interesting.
Not super competitive. I mean, like there's certain things, like certain realms of my life where I am, but like when I watch a sporting event, I root on both teams. So
Right.
I think for me, it wasn't so much the competitive aspect as much as it was like the the change in like how I felt about myself. So it just started to like grow a newfound confidence. Like I'm 5 feet tall, I'm a female. Like it's helped me feel strong, and it kind of empowered me to be more confident, to be able to speak my mind. I mean, I think it did things for me outside of the weight room more than anything, that it just made me develop like an intense love for it.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that. I think you said it perfectly too. With a lot of women, especially, they struggle whether it's being a little overweight or being too thin, and the eating disorder side to it. At a younger age, there's a lot of pressure, especially going through like high school, to like look and feel a certain way. You can go as much detail as you're comfortable with, but did you feel like there was a insecure or not confident side to you while doing the cheerleading stuff, or like did you feel like there was something that whether you didn't fit the stereotype or whatever, that's what led to more of the training side? Because I think a lot of people could relate if that's the case.
Yeah, I think for me, like I grew up, I think we all grew up like during this time where it was like, you had to be thin to be beautiful. And I was never fat. I was never skinny. Like I was like kind of in between. And for me, it was like something where I wasn't comfortable with how I felt in my own skin. And to be completely honest with you, I feel like to this day, like I love my body, but it's not where I want it to be yet. And I feel like I'm always working towards something. And I truly don't think I'll ever be 100% happy with where I am. But I think that's part of the training, right? Like it's just trying to be better every day and trying to improve something. And mentally, like it, it has helped me grow in a lot of different ways. Um, so I don't know. I think for me, it's just like, it's something that has shaped who I am in general.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too, with you going into coaching and wanting to like help other people kind of find themselves and go through that whole experience. Because that's, you know, most of the people I've worked with, that's, you know, a lot of it's just the mental game, and I think that probably played into a lot you went into, because you can be the best coach in the world, but unless you mentally prepare them and get them in the right spot, it's like nothing's gonna click. Is that what kind of interested you when you went into college, to go into that route more than maybe a strength conditioning route or something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of what I realized when I was younger was like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't have it drink, right? So like you need to get someone to be able to make a change, and like what motivates people to make those changes? Like what neural networks drive changes? Like what motivates behavior? So it was like understanding. My thought going into college, right, was like if I understood how those circuits worked, then maybe I would be able to help people make those changes. And I feel like I've gone through a lot of like different changes in what I want to do. But this has always been constant because it's allowed me to do what I love to do, and it's to help people make those changes, and not just like in the way that they see themselves, but also in like their daily habits, like their behavior, how they work out. It's kind of like this holistic approach rather than, hey, let's just go lift some heavy weight. It's like changing, instead of thinking of like, hey, I want to lose 20 pounds, like why do you want to lose those 20 pounds? Like what will that do for you? How will it make you feel? Like what is the bigger picture as well?
Yeah, no, and that's a perfect way to say it, because again, it comes down to if you don't mentally have the right set, because everyone wants to quit fix too, and there's so much that goes into it, and it's like, well, why do you want to lose the 20 pounds? Like what, and it's like, well, I want this, and then there's an underlying reason why you have that, and so on and so forth. So as you're going through college, did you realize that you just wanted to continue to train at that point, but just kind of like implement everything you're learning into your training with like working with clients?
Yeah, so I worked, I actually like had to work while I was in school because I needed the money to be able to like pay for my life. So while I was doing that, I was like working part-time at a gym, and I was working in two separate research labs. So I was doing like full-time school, two labs, and part-time training. So it was kind of like an intense mix of everything, and I wanted to do everything really well. And as like I went through that process, like I would find myself like in the lab, I had to do research to figure out, okay, what are the next steps in this experiment? And in my spare time, what I found myself doing was more researching like health and fitness and learning more about that. So I felt like I was always in like this place where I was divided between two things I really loved, because I loved research and I love the brain and I love neuroscience, but I really, really was passionate about fitness and like wellness and nutrition. So after I finished college, I was still working in research, did that for a little bit, still training. And then I actually came like across Lifetime, or actually Lifetime came to me. And I was like, you know what? Like, this is the time. Like, this is the moment where I'm going to just stop doing research and I'm going to just go full time fitness and see where this goes.
So you start at Lifetime. How soon after you got out of college did you find Lifetime?
2 years.
Okay, so in that transition, were you just working as a coach then,
So I was
and
doing,
doing research, and that was the research and all that?
yep. So I would do mornings, I would train, then like, so early mornings I would train, then like morning to afternoon, I would go to the lab, and then at night I would go back to the gym.
So growing up, I think a lot of people struggle with this. What has kept you going on a day-to-day basis, like staying motivated through the ups and downs, the challenges? Because I think a lot of people are very motivated. I don't even know like the term sometimes, because I feel like motivation is very short term. You kind of have to find your passion, be driven to do it. Like, what are some things that keep you motivated on a day-to-day basis to, just always wanting to get better? Is there certain things you do, or is that just been instilled maybe a sense as you were a kid almost?
Yeah. So like that intrinsic motivation, I think part of it is like, that's a really good question. I find myself like even during this time, for example, like if I don't accomplish something for that day, I find myself like stagnant and like I'm not growing, and it drives me.
Right.
I think as I go through this process, like what I've realized most is like, hey, some days are just not going to be good. Like yesterday, I didn't train. I was super sore. I didn't really move that much, and I ended up just doing like a 20-minute yoga session. Like it's more for me. Like it's a place where I feel better. Like I actually like those hormones start to kick in. Like I start to just like get those endorphins. Like it's something that makes me happy and I feel empty without it. Um, so I think for me, I don't really know. I can't
Right.
like
No, that's
pinpoint.
okay.
Just been there forever. It's been how I was raised. Like when I was younger, my mom always forced me to make sure that my homework was done. Like it was those little things that kind of like started to create these values. And for me, it's just like something like I always want to be better, whatever it is that I'm doing. I just want to be the best. So
Yeah.
there, I'm competitive.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, because it's funny how you are competitive, but not necessarily towards other people. You're just very motivated with yourself and setting a
Yeah.
standard for yourself.
Yeah. I think
Um,
that's the thing. Like I
yeah.
want to succeed, but I want to make sure that like for me, like I have to be better each day.
What are some strategies that you do to keep your positive outlook or always looking forward? For example, some like I'm a big audiobook guy, a podcast guy. I like reading, like I'll read here and there. Are there things you do every like day to like help mentally put yourself in a very positive mindset and always trying to grow?
Yeah, I actually like to talk to other people about how they see the world. I think one thing that I've realized is that, I can look at I can look at the world in one way, but everybody looks at it in so many other ways. And the best way that I learn is actually through discussion. So talking to other people, hearing how they view situations. And also like I like audiobooks as well. I like reading. I like to learn about other subjects. So, like right now, I'm on this binge about learning business and like learning how to invest properly. I think those are things that we're not taught like early in life. And it's been something that has really changed the way that I think about a lot of other things. So it's just kind of like diversifying the way that like it's not always just about exercise and fitness and nutrition for me. It's about kind of just like going and learning everything that I can.
Right. And that's probably what makes you very good at what you do, is the fact that you're willing to listen and you like to listen. And I think a lot of people, as they get more educated, get more experience, there's a lot of ego involved, which I can sense there's like none with you. Like you're confident, but you're always wanting to learn and grow. So that's something I think a lot of people need to focus on more of, is just be willing to take advice from people, be willing to listen, and continue to try to get better. Um,
Yeah.
so if we move forward a little bit now to like you're at Lifetime, and then we were talking briefly before this started, is you were at Lifetime as a personal trainer. When did it transition to you being like a personal training manager and taking on more responsibility in that realm?
Yeah. So about 8 months into my personal training career at Lifetime, I had built my business. I was in a place where I was comfortable. And I think for me, I don't like to feel comfortable. I don't like to feel like, hey, I've done everything. Now I'm just kind of cruising. I'm like greasing the wheels. Like I'm not really doing anything. I don't succeed in those environments. So I decided there are things that like I've seen how they've been done and I want to do them better. So I challenged myself. I applied for the member onboarding manager role in a new club that was opening up in Burlington, and I luckily got it. And from there, I was member onboarding manager, where I really focus on helping other trainers kind of learn how to build their business, how to build rapport with people, how to really kind of brand themselves, how to learn more about like being able to analyze other people and like what they should be looking for, how to make sure that someone's ready for change. And if they're not, what kind of talk should they be hearing? So just kind of teaching them the things that I had learned over the years through like my education and through certifications and through talking to other people. And then after that, like I got to that same place again where I was comfortable, like everything was kind of running itself. That one took a little bit longer. It was like about 2 years. And I applied for the personal training manager role because I wanted to be able to kind of help create a team and a vision that I had seen, like where people really like it was more of a family, like a family style community where all the trainers helped each other, where everybody succeeded. We utilize each other's strengths to kind of create this incredible department. And that's kind of where I am now. So it's just kind of like that moment where I start to feel comfortable, where I'm like, I need change. Like
Right.
I change.
I'm 100% couldn't relate with you. I could relate so much with that. And it's just the simple fact of, I always said from like, my parents grew up very poorish, like middle class, but poor. They lost their house, this whole thing. Right. So growing up, they both had high school diplomas. They really didn't push me to grow or like challenge myself. So it took time. But it's the idea of, I always said I would never be average. And like, that's like my goal. And whether it's physically, mentally, career, financially. And it's like, it seems like you can relate and maybe word it differently. But it's always like you said, if I'm doing something for too long, like I could almost can't see myself staying at a career for the same job, because it's like numbing to me. Like I need to be challenged more and more. So with you working with coaches and trainers all the time and educating them and helping them learn how to like program and all that, what's some advice you could give to someone maybe that's like 18 to 22 years old that's just getting started as a trainer, and they're looking to like maybe help build up their own clientele, or just maybe a mindset that they need to have going into that scenario that would be helpful for them?
I think the best advice I can give them is that every single person that you talk to has their own challenges, has their life figured out in a way that's comfortable for them. And you have to figure out how to adapt your approach to that person, because you have to be able to to speak to anything in 100 different ways that kind of just target your specific audience. Like, it's not just like, hey, you have to do XYZ. You have to tell them how they can fit whatever it is into their busy life, how they can do it, and what benefits they will see that are important to them. So it's just about how you frame things, because you need to be able to drive emotion. Emotion is what drives change. People don't do things because of logic. Like, if it were up to logic, like, everybody would be doing training, right? It's more about like, what can you do for them? How can you solve their problems? And what can you contribute and add to their lives? Not just in like, hey, you'll lose 20 pounds, but like, you will feel more motivated to be at work. Like, you will be able to spend more time playing with your family, playing with your kids, and not feel as tired. So it's figuring out how to frame that, whatever it is that you're talking about, in a way that really drives that person.
Gotcha. What are some goals that, or I should say it like this, what are some personal goals that you have right now, whether they're fitness, whether it's career, whether, whatever you're willing to share?
Personal goals. So, let's see, like, you want fitness goals?
We can go whatever direction you're comfortable with. Yeah.
Okay.
I just think a lot of people will listen to you, and I think they look at you as in someone who's accomplished a lot in a short period of time, someone that's always pushing themselves to grow, always looking to the future. So I think I'm just curious of what your thoughts when I ask the question of that, like,
Yeah.
where your mind goes. Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it career? Whatever your thought process is.
Yeah. I think it's definitely both. Like, I I've always been in this mindset where I need to take care of myself first in order to be able to give the most to others. So like, I've never really sacrificed like my personal fitness for anything else. Like, I've learned how to say no to certain things just because I want to take care of my goals first, like going out or like doing things with friends. Like, there's a limit to what I will do because I won't sacrifice the things that I really care about. So personally, like, in terms of my fitness goals, I want to get stronger. I was actually looking at old videos the other day of myself, like 3 years ago, lifting something for like 2 reps, where I was like, oh, wow, like, that was super heavy back then. And now
Was
I
that
can
your
do
deadlift?
it. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was looking at a video of me doing like 225 for like 2 or 3 reps. And I was like, wow, like, that is so much easier now. Like, I could do 12 reps with that.
Right.
So personally, like, I want to get stronger, and like, there's like 3 big things that I care about. Like, I care about my squat, my deadlift, and my chin ups. Those are like my main, like, most important lifts personally.
Yeah.
So I do want to get stronger with that. In terms of career goals, with like everything going on, I want to be extremely successful with kind of creating a team. Like, we started hiring, and then like we all got furloughed with everything going on. So kind of just making sure that when the time comes, I can build a very successful team and run a very successful department. And then after that, I've been thinking like, either I move up the ladder or I go back to school. But I do want to impact as many people as I can. So it's just kind of figuring out what is the right move for me. I've realized over time that I definitely want to find a way to integrate like nutrition, fitness, and business. I really have, like, over the years realized that I thought, like, when I was growing up, when I was in college, I looked at the people in our business school and I was like, man, they have it so easy. Like, it's all about money. That doesn't motivate me. And it still doesn't motivate me. But I've realized that business is also about networking. It's about connections. And that's what I really love. Like, I love helping people. I love getting people connected to each other. And I've realized that that is truly one of the biggest things that I'm passionate about. So it's helping people achieve their goals, but also like connecting with people on a deeper level. So finding a way to integrate those two things.
No, I love that. And I'm going to flip the script on you a little bit. So
Yeah.
we talked about like some of the goals, like, we talked about all the good that kind of happened, like all the things that you've achieved so far up to this point. How did you deal, I guess it's different for everybody. How did you deal with like criticism, or was there a lot of like criticism or like people saying, questioning, maybe going into personal train or coaching, or like as you're growing up into that? Because like my family wasn't yay or nay, but like I know some people look at it differently. So I guess like, did you have a good support system with that? And like, as you got into it more, were there people like questioning your choices to go into that field?
Yeah. So absolutely. I actually didn't even mention this part. So my dad, when I got out of school and I was just training, he's always been very adamant. Like, my sister's a lawyer, who's been extremely supportive. But my dad's always like, hey, if you don't have your next degree, you're not going to be successful. You don't have a degree, you're not going to be successful. And I just hear that like every single day of my life. So as I finished, like as I got into Lifetime and I just like kept like, I got a promotion and then I got another promotion, like for him, it didn't mean anything, and it kind of still doesn't. So I'm still struggling with that. So he always wanted me to go and be a doctor. That to him means success. So I got into a program at Harvard. I did a year of it where it was kind of like a prereq program to get into medical school. And I remember sitting in one of my classes in a biochem class talking about diabetes, and then talking about how, there is a 5 to 10 year period where someone is pre-diabetic, where they can actually, go back go back, change their nutrition, change their exercise, and not develop diabetes. And one of my professors asked, like, hey guys, like, so after everything that we've learned, like, what do you think would be a proper treatment for this? And everybody's response came into like, hey, this is what we can do. Like, this is a type of medication that we can create that would work on this part of the cell. And I raised my hand and I was like, well, what about we change their nutrition? We have them exercise. And the teacher's response to me was like, yeah, that would work, but that's not what we're talking about.
Wow.
I finished the program, didn't go back.
I wouldn't go back. Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I think like I've had to deal with that a lot, but to me, it's not about like, hey, this is the easiest solution. Like, this is a little pill that you can take and like fix all your problems, because it doesn't work that way. I think it's like, you can't look at health and fitness through one lens. Like, it has to be like impacting your entire life, and it absolutely does. So for me, it's about longevity. It's about like, not being in pain in the future, like living the longest, like happiest, most fulfilling life that you can live. So I've definitely dealt with a lot of criticism, but I've always stood by it. And every time my dad talks to me, I'm like, Dad, like, I really don't want to hear it. And I just kind of don't. So it's just, it's not like the most supportive environment, but my sister has always been super supportive. And I've always really known kind of like, hey, this is what I want to do next. But by the same token, I don't have like a very clear end goal.
Right.
But it's all about like, in the moment, hey, this is where I can challenge myself next.
Yeah, I mean, you seem very intrinsically motivated, but in a way that's got to like almost push you to like be like, I'll prove you wrong. I'll prove you wrong. Now you're not in a negative way, but I don't know if that's part of how it feels to you. Like, you just want to make them proud, but you have to do your thing,
Absolutely. Yeah. Like I mean, I love my dad. He's my dad,
Right.
and
Absolutely.
has been supportive in other ways. And I do believe that I wouldn't be where I am without him, because he's really what allowed me to get into this industry, that exposed me to it, like in the first place. But I have had a lot of struggles. I have cried a lot because of it, but it it hasn't stopped me from doing what I want to do, because I know that like deep in my bones, I feel like it's the right thing. So it's just kind of like getting through it, managing it.
Right. And I guess you kind of answered this, but I'm curious if there's more to it. Is if I think there's a lot of people. Do you follow Gary Vee at all?
Yeah.
Okay, so like there's a lot of people. He talks a lot about it recently. It's the people crumble under society's pressure to be 18, 22, and 30 are three ages that they just crumble under. Like 18, you're supposed to do this. You're supposed to be going to college. 22, you're supposed to have your life figured out. And then at 30, like, oh my gosh, my life's not figured out. What am I doing? So like three prime ages. For you, I guess someone, because you've kind of went through it where you've dealt with some pushback, you know, in your head while you're going through that, you know, what are some advice that you give to maybe someone that's in that situation, that's trying to, is questioning themselves if they want to follow their passion or just do what their parents really want them to do?
Yeah. I think that we as humans are most successful in places where we are most driven. So we talk about, I told you, like emotion is what drives behavior. So if you're doing what you love, like a 12-hour workday feels like nothing, versus if you're doing something that you hate, 12 hours of work drains you. It like puts you in just a negative place. So I think at the end of the day, like figure out what you truly love and really work towards it, because you can be super successful in any field, in any realm, as long as you're really driven and you look for support. Like, and that support can be from your family, it can be from your friends, it can be from books. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's just like finding ways to make all of the pieces come together. And sometimes it feels like those pieces just don't click. Like, and that's okay. But it's not giving up on your vision, and just kind of really making sure that every single day you do something that makes you just a little bit better. And over time, that little bit just really adds up.
So I have one other question that I want to ask you. And I like, this is an open-ended because it gives you any direction you want to go, and I'll ask it here and there. But I think because I love how much you, from your psych side to it, to the mindset side of it, the way your head, like the way you think, I really, really like. So if I asked you, like, what is the impact you're trying to have on the world? What would your response be to that?
Great question. I think for me, it's about really integrating, like in a truly integrated way of like health and nutrition and success. So one of the biggest things that I've seen like throughout my career and just like with family, with friends, is that like they are two separate things. Like I have to exercise, like I'm going to do this because it's good for my health, but they don't truly see like the like symbiotic relationship between the two. And it's finding a way, and I haven't quite figured out how I can do that, but you know, it's something I think about every day. But like finding a way that people start to really see that, hey, if I eat these types of foods, I exercise like for 30 minutes each day, like it actually improves my cognition while I'm at work. Right? It's like those things, because like you can say them till you're blue in the face, but no one will really listen to you. So it's finding a way to like make it click for everyone. Like, how can you truly prove that? How can people experience that? Because a lot of times, unless you've experienced something, you don't truly believe it. Like we are all told from a very young age, hey, like don't do this because something's going to happen, and we do it anyway. And then once we do it and we learn from that experience, right? Like we're like, okay, I shouldn't have done that. My mom was probably right. So it's finding a way that like shows people that these things are super integrated, and like they can actually prevent disease. They can, you know, lead you to a lifestyle that you truly love. I mean, I haven't quite figured out how to do it yet, but I think that's
Right.
like one of my biggest drivers, and like one of the things I want to really help people do.
I love that. I think it's a perfect way to end it. It sums up pretty much what it's all about and what you're all about. So I appreciate you coming on and taking the time. And, you know, I hope at some point in the future we'll do it again. Stay in touch. And if anyone wants to reach out to you, is it best to go Instagram, Facebook? What's the best way to get in contact with you?
Probably Instagram, or either works.
Okay.
Instagram would probably be better.
Well, we'll put that in the box below so everyone can check you out. But thanks again for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. Everyone, I'll see you guys next time.